My sister left her 4 kids with me, saying, just for an hour. 10 years later, she came back with a lawyer and accused me of kidnapping. When I handed the judge the envelope, he asked, "Do they know?" I said, "Not yet, but before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know." Now let's dive into today's story. The lake stretched out before Logan Carver's cabin like a sheet of hammered steel, reflecting the last orange streaks of a summer sunset. He stood on the porch, coffee cup warming his hands, watching the pine trees sway in the evening breeze. The air smelled clean, lake water, sun-warmed wood, and the faint scent of fish from his morning catch still lingering on his fingers. Peace. That's what he'd built here in Cedar Hollow. After years of watching his father deteriorate in this very cabin, after rebuilding the sagging porch and replacing rotted beams, Logan had carved out something resembling calm. His paramedic shifts were brutal, 12 hours of other people's emergencies. But when he came home, the lake never asked questions. The trees never judged. The silence never demanded anything. Then he heard the car. The engine roared up his gravel driveway, tires spitting rocks. Logan didn't move. He took another sip of coffee, already knowing. Some part of him always knew when chaos was coming. You learned that skill early when Raina was your sister. The SUV lurched to a stop 15 feet from his porch. Expensive. New. Black paint gleaming even in the fading light. The door flew open, and Raina emerged like a hurricane stuffed into designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than his monthly utilities. Logan. Her voice had that frantic edge he remembered from childhood, the tone she used when she'd broken something and needed him to fix it before their father found out. He set his coffee down on the porch railing. Slowly. "Raina, thank God you're home." She rushed toward him, but stopped at the bottom step. Smart. She knew better than to invade his space without permission. "I need a huge favor. Just an hour, I swear. Maybe 2 at most." Logan's jaw tightened. Behind her, he could see movement in the SUV's back seats. Small shapes. 4 of them. "You brought the kids." Something came up. "Emergency meeting. My phone's been ringing off the hook all day." She gestured vaguely, as if the air itself would validate her story. Their father was supposed to have them this week, but he bailed last minute. Typical. "And my sitter fell through, and I need someone I can trust, Logan. Someone family." Trust. The word tasted bitter just hearing it. Logan descended the porch steps, moving past Raina toward the SUV. She turned, following, still talking. Always talking, filling silences with explanations that explained nothing. "They've been asking about you anyway. Jonah, especially. He saw that photo I posted from Mom's birthday last year and want to know why we never visit Uncle Logan anymore. I told him you're just busy, with your job and everything, but..." Logan opened the back door. 4 pairs of eyes stared up at him. Jonah, maybe 7 years old, sat in the back row, holding a tablet with a cracked screen. Beside him, Lila clutched a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. In the middle seats, Avery, maybe 5, pressed her face against the window, and Ty, the youngest, maybe 3, slept in his car seat, drool dampening his collar. "Hey kids," Logan said. His voice softened automatically. Not for Raina. Never for Raina. But the children weren't her. Not yet. "Uncle Logan?" Jonah's voice cracked with uncertainty. "That's right. You remember me?" "Kind of. Well, I remember you. Last time I saw you, you were half that size." Logan unbuckled Ty's car seat. The boy stirred but didn't wake. "Looks like you're staying with me for a bit." "Mom said just an hour," Jonah said quietly. Logan lifted Ty out, the boy's weight warm and trusting against his chest. "We'll see." Behind him, Raina was already halfway to her car. "You're a lifesaver, Logan. I'll text you when I'm on my way back. Should be quick. 2 hours tops. 3 if traffic's bad." "Raina." Logan's voice stopped her. She turned, one hand on her driver's door. "Where's their stuff? Clothes? Pajamas?" She blinked. "Oh, right. I've got a bag in the trunk." She popped it open, revealing one small duffel bag that looked suspiciously light for 4 kids and even a short stay. Logan stared at her. In the orange light of dusk, her face looked gaunt, older than 34. Her makeup was flawless, but underneath, he could see the same trapped animal expression she'd worn their whole lives. The look that meant she was running from something. "What's really going on?" he asked. "Nothing. I told you. Just a meeting. In Cedar Hollow? On a Thursday night. It's complicated. Business stuff. You wouldn't," she caught herself. "I'll explain when I get back. But I really have to go. They're waiting for me." She pulled the duffel from the trunk, dropped it at his feet, and was back in her car before he could say another word. The engine roared to life. Raina, but she was already reversing, already turning, already leaving. Gravel sprayed. Her taillights flared red in the gathering darkness. And then she was gone, speeding down the road that curved through the pine forest and disappeared from Cedar Hollow entirely. Logan stood there, Ty sleeping on his shoulder, the duffel bag at his feet, 3 more children climbing out of the abandoned SUV. No, not abandoned. Not yet. Just parked. She'd be back. She said she'd be back. The coffee on his porch railing had gone cold. Jonah approached slowly, tablet still clutched in his hands. "Is she coming back tonight?" Logan looked down at the boy. 7 years old, maybe 8. Dark eyes that had already learned to expect disappointment. "She said so," Logan answered. It wasn't a lie. It also wasn't the truth. "Come on, let's get you inside." The cabin felt smaller with 4 kids in it. Logan settled Ty on the couch, still sleeping, and turned to face the others. Lila held her rabbit, so tight her knuckles were white. Avery stood by the door, one hand on the frame, ready to run. Jonas set his tablet on the kitchen counter and surveyed the room with careful, assessing eyes. "You got food?" Jonah asked. "Yeah." "Real food or bachelor food?" Despite everything, Logan almost smiled. "What's bachelor food?" "Cereal. Frozen pizza. Stuff like that. I've got real food. You hungry?" Jonah glanced at his sisters. Some silent communication passed between them. Something practiced, protective. "Yeah, we're hungry." Logan moved to the kitchen, opening cabinets. He had pasta, ground beef, tomato sauce. Not fancy, but solid. He started pulling out ingredients. "Can we watch TV?" Lila asked. Her voice was small, careful. "Sure." Remote's on the coffee table. She moved to the couch, turning it on, but keeping the volume low. Avery followed, sitting on the opposite end, still ready to bolt. Jonah stayed in the kitchen, watching Logan work. "You cook a lot?" the boy asked. "Every day. Our dad never cooks. Mom sometimes, but usually we just order stuff." Logan filled a pot with water, set it on the stove. "That gets expensive." "Yeah." Jonah was quiet for a moment. "She's not coming back tonight, is she?" Logan's hand paused on the stove dial. He looked at Jonah, really looked. The boy's face was calm, resigned. Too calm for a 7-year-old asking that question. "I don't know," Logan said. Honesty. That's all he had to offer. "But you're safe here. All of you." Jonah nodded slowly. "Okay." 1 hour became that night. Logan made pasta, watched them eat in silence that felt both comfortable and wrong. He dug through the duffel bag Raina had left and found 1 change of clothes for each kid. Nothing close to enough. He gave Jonah and Ty his spare bedroom, put Lila and Avery in sleeping bags on the living room floor with every spare blanket he owned. At midnight, he checked his phone. No texts, no calls, nothing. At 3 a.m., Avery woke up crying. Logan found her in the dark, trembling, asking for her mother. He sat beside her, keeping his voice low so as not to wake the others. "It's okay. You're safe. Where is she?" "I don't know, but I'm right here." Eventually, Avery fell back asleep, still gripping the edge of Logan's shirt sleeve. He stayed there on the floor until dawn crept through the windows, painting the pine walls gray, then gold. One night became a week. Logan called Raina's phone 17 times. It went straight to voicemail every time. He called her ex-husband, the kid's father, who answered on the 4th ring and said, "She did this to you too? Welcome to the club, man. I haven't seen those kids in 6 months. Court says I get weekends, but she never shows up. Eventually, you stop trying." Then he hung up. Logan stood in his kitchen, phone still pressed to his ear, listening to dead air. Through the doorway, he could see Jonah helping Lila with breakfast. Avery sat on the couch, coloring. Ty played with wooden blocks on the floor, building towers and knocking them down. 1 week became 2, then 3. Logan took them school shopping with money he didn't have. Enrolled them in Cedar Hollow Elementary. Explained to his supervisor at the ambulance service that he needed different shifts, needed to be home when they got off the bus. The town noticed. Cedar Hollow was small enough that everyone knew everyone, and Logan Carver suddenly having 4 kids was the kind of gossip that spread through coffee shops and post offices like wildfire. "Those Raina's kids?" Mrs. Patterson from the grocery store asked, her voice dripping with pity. "Yeah. She coming back for them?" Logan loaded milk into his cart, then cereal, then bread. Everything stretched his budget, but the kids needed to eat. "Don't know. That girl always did run from her problems." Logan didn't respond. He checked out, loaded the groceries into his truck, and drove home. 1 month became 3, became 6, became a year. Logan learned their routines. Jonah hated math, but loved reading. Lila had nightmares about being left behind and needed night lights in every room. Avery was terrified of loud noises, slammed doors, raised voices, thunder. Ty asked about his mother less and less, until finally he stopped asking at all. Logan worked overnight shifts at the hospital, sleeping in scattered 4-hour chunks. He taught them to fish off his dock, taught them to budget money, taught them that promises meant something. That when you said you'd be there, you showed up. The first time Jonah flinched at a slammed car door, Logan filed his first report with Child Protective Services. The caseworker came to the cabin, interviewed the kids, looked at the paperwork Logan had meticulously kept. Every unanswered call, every failed attempt to reach Raina, every document proving he was the only one keeping these children alive. "Mr. Carver, you understand you're not their legal guardian." "I know. We could place them in foster care." Logan's jaw set. "You could try." The caseworker looked at the kids playing in the yard, looked back at Logan, and sighed. "File for guardianship. Do it officially. Because this," she gestured around the cabin, "this is better than anything the system can offer them." Logan filed the paperwork that night. The state contacted Raina through every known address, every phone number, sent certified letters, official notices. She never responded. 2 years in, the judge granted Logan full legal guardianship by default. The children's last name legally became Carver. Raina Lockwood's parental rights were effectively suspended pending her return and response. Logan kept every document in a manila envelope. The letters, the voicemails, the case reports, everything. He sealed it and put it in a lockbox under his bed. The years blurred together after that. Birthdays, school plays, broken bones, first days of middle school. Logan aged in dog years, growing gray at his temples, lines deepening around his eyes. But the kids grew too, grew taller, smarter, stronger. Jonah became serious, protective, the second parent in the house. Lila found her voice, became stubborn and bright, and unafraid to argue. Avery's anxiety never fully left, but she learned to manage it, learned that Logan would always answer when she called out at night. Ty grew into a quiet, thoughtful boy who preferred books to people. They were a family, not by blood, or rather, not by the blood that mattered. By choice, by showing up, by staying. 10 years passed like water through Logan's fingers. And then one morning in October, a black SUV pulled into his driveway. Logan was on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the lake shimmer under autumn sun. The trees burned red and gold. The air smelled like wood smoke and coming winter. He heard the engine before he saw the car. Expensive, new, familiar. The SUV stopped in the same spot it had 10 years ago. The door opened. A woman stepped out, and for a moment, Logan didn't recognize her. She'd aged well, professionally styled hair, designer coat, heels that clicked on his gravel driveway. But when she turned toward him, he saw Raina's face underneath all the polish. She smiled. Bright. Empty. Logan. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched her approach with a briefcase-carrying man in a dark suit trailing behind her. "It's been a long time," Raina said, stopping at the bottom of his porch steps. "You look good. Older but good." Logan took a sip of coffee. It was already cold. "This is my attorney, David Brighton." She gestured to the man, who nodded professionally. "I think we need to talk." "About what?" "About my children." The words dropped like stones into still water. Logan's hand tightened around his mug. Behind him, the cabin's screen door creaked. Jonah emerged, 17 now, tall and lean with Logan's build and careful eyes. "Who's here?" Logan didn't turn around. "Go inside." "But—" "Inside? Now." Jonah hesitated, then obeyed. But through the window, Logan could see faces gathering. All four of them, watching. Raina followed his gaze, and her smile widened. "They've gotten so big. I almost didn't recognize them. Jonah, especially. He looks just like his father." "Why are you here, Raina?" "I told you. My children." She straightened, and something shifted in her posture, something rehearsed. "You've had them long enough, Logan. 10 years. I was going through a difficult time back then. I wasn't ready, but I'm stable now. Married. I have a home, a career. I'm ready to be their mother again." Logan stared at her. The lake breeze stirred the pine trees. Somewhere in the distance, a loon called out, lonely and sharp. "You gotta be kidding. I'm completely serious." Raina nodded to her lawyer, who pulled a folder from his briefcase. "I've consulted with David, and we believe I have a strong case for custody. You were never supposed to keep them this long. It was temporary, an emergency. And you," her voice hardened, "you turned temporary into permanent without my permission." "Your permission?" Logan's voice was flat. "Dangerous." "Yes. You isolated them from me. You poisoned them against their own mother. I saved them. You kidnapped them." The word hung in the air between them like a blade. Logan descended the porch steps slowly, deliberately. Raina took a reflexive step back. Her lawyer moved forward, positioning himself between them. "Mr. Carver, I'd advise you to remain calm." Logan ignored him, locking eyes with Raina. "Say that again." "You heard me. You took my children and kept them from me for 10 years. That's parental kidnapping. That's illegal, and I'm filing charges. You left them. For an hour. For a decade. Because you refused to return them." Raina's polished facade cracked, and underneath, Logan saw the same desperate, trapped animal he'd always known. "I called. I texted. You never responded. You just took them and disappeared." Logan pulled his phone from his pocket, opened his call log, turned the screen toward her. 17 missed calls to you in the first week alone. 43 in the first month. 87 in the first year. You want me to show you the texts too? Because I kept all of them. Every single one. Raina's face paled. Her lawyer cleared his throat. "Regardless of past communication issues, my client has the right to petition for custody. We're filing a motion with Barrow County Family Court. You'll be served papers within the week." "Good," Logan said. His voice was calm. "Cold. I'll be ready." He turned and walked back into his cabin, shutting the door behind him. Inside, the kids surrounded him immediately. Jonah stepped forward. "Was that your mother?" "Yes." Lila's face had gone white. She still held that same stuffed rabbit, more patches and original fabric now. "What does she want?" Logan looked at each of them in turn. Jonah, 17, jaw set and ready to fight. Lila, 15, stubborn and scared. Avery, 13, already retreating toward her room. Ty, 11, confused and silent. "She wants to take you back." "No." The word came from Jonah, immediate and fierce. "No way. It's not up to us. There's going to be a court hearing. Then we'll tell them. We'll tell them she left. She left us." "I know. And we will." Logan's hand rested on the doorframe, steadying himself. "But you need to understand something. She's going to fight. She's going to say things. About me. About you. About what happened. And it's going to be hard." "I don't care," Jonas said. "You're my dad. Not her." Logan's throat tightened. 10 years, and Jonah had never called him that before. "Jonah, I mean it. We're not going anywhere." Lila nodded. Avery peeked out from her doorway, pale but determined. Eventide stepped closer, taking Logan's hand. "Okay," Logan said quietly. "Then we fight." That night, after the kids were asleep, Logan pulled the lockbox from under his bed. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, and opened it. The manila envelope sat inside, sealed and untouched for 10 years. He broke the seal. Inside were documents he'd kept, had promised himself he'd only use if this moment came. And it had come. The Barrow County Courthouse sat at the edge of Cedar Hollow like a piece of forgotten history. all rough-cut pine beams and benches worn smooth by 3 generations of residents settling their grievances. The ceiling was high and dark, with exposed rafters that creaked when the wind pushed hard enough. Morning light filtered through tall windows, painting the judge's bench in shades of amber and dust. Logan arrived 15 minutes early. He wore his only suit, bought at a department store 2 towns over, and carried a leather folder that held copies of everything he needed. The kids were at school. He'd asked them to stay away today, to let the adults handle the opening moves. Jonah had argued, but Logan had been firm. "This is just the beginning," he'd said that morning over breakfast. "Save your strength." Now, sitting in the gallery as other cases shuffled through, Logan watched the courthouse fill. Raina entered with her lawyer, David Brighton, who wore a suit that probably cost more than Logan made in 3 months. She dressed for sympathy, modest blouse, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back in a way that made her look younger, vulnerable. She saw Logan and offered a tight smile. He didn't return it, just turned his gaze forward and waited. "All rise." Judge Patricia Moreno entered, her black robe sweeping behind her. She was in her 60s, with steel-gray hair and a face that had presided over every family drama Cedar Hollow could produce. Logan had heard she was fair but hard. No patience for lies. No tolerance for games. "Good. Please be seated." Judge Moreno settled behind her bench, adjusted her glasses, and opened the file in front of her. Case number 2847. Lockwood versus Carver. Petition for custody modification and criminal complaint of parental kidnapping. Logan felt the words land like fists. Raina's lawyer stood. "Your Honor," David Brighton, representing the petitioner, Raina Lockwood. "My client is the biological mother of 4 minor children who were temporarily placed in the care of her brother, Logan Carver, 10 years ago under emergency circumstances. Despite repeated attempts to reunite with her children, Mr. Carver has refused all contact, isolated the children, and maintained illegal custody without court authorization. Your Honor," Logan's court-appointed attorney, a tired-looking woman named Patricia Green, rose quickly. "That's categorically false. Mr. Carver was granted full legal guardianship through this very court 8 years ago, case number 1129. All proper channels were followed. Only after my client had been effectively denied access to her children for 2 years, Brighton shot back. The guardianship was granted by default because Mr. Carver ensured my client had no knowledge of the proceedings." Judge Moreno held up one hand. "I'll hear the petitioner's testimony first. Ms. Lockwood, please take the stand." Raina moved to the witness box, placing her hand on the Bible, swearing to tell the truth. She sat, folded her hands in her lap, and looked directly at the judge with wide, glistening eyes. Brighton approached. "Ms. Lockwood, please tell the court what happened 10 years ago." Raina took a breath, and when she spoke, her voice trembled. "I was going through the worst time of my life. My marriage had just fallen apart. I was struggling financially, emotionally. I wasn't in a good place to care for my children, and I knew it. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I asked my brother, Logan, if he could watch them for just a few hours while I sorted some things out." "And did you intend for that arrangement to be permanent?" "No, never. I told him it would be an hour, maybe 2. I just needed time to clear my head, to figure out my next steps." "What happened when you tried to get them back?" Raina's eyes welled up. A single tear traced down her cheek. "He wouldn't answer my calls. I tried everything, calling, texting, showing up at his house. But he'd moved, changed his number. He just vanished with my children." Logan's jaw clenched. In his peripheral vision, he saw people in the gallery shifting, murmuring, believing her. Brighton paced slowly. "How has this affected you?" "It's destroyed me." Raina's voice broke. "Every single day, for 10 years, I've thought about them, wondered if they were okay, if they remembered me, if they hated me. I've been in therapy. I've rebuilt my life specifically so I could provide for them again. I remarried a wonderful man. We have a stable home. And all I want, all I've ever wanted, is to be their mother again." "Thank you, Ms. Lockwood." No further questions. Patricia Green stood for cross-examination. She was in her 50s, with gray streak hair pulled into a practical bun and eyes that had seen enough courtroom theatrics to be permanently unimpressed. Ms. Lockwood, you said you tried to contact Mr. Carver after leaving the children. Yes, many times. Do you have records of these attempts? Phone logs? Text messages? Raina hesitated. I switched carriers a few years ago. I don't have access to those old records anymore. I see. And when you showed up at Mr. Carver's house, the one you said he'd moved from, when was that? Maybe a month after I left the kids with him. And what address did you go to? The cabin. His father's old place on Lake Drive. The same cabin he lives in now. Raina blinked. Yes, but he wasn't there when I went. The place looked abandoned. Ms. Lockwood, Mr. Carver has lived at that address continuously for the past 15 years. He's never moved. The property records confirm this. Green pulled a document from her folder. In fact, he pays property taxes on it every year, and the Postal Service has never had a change of address on file. I must have gotten the timing wrong. It was 10 years ago. Indeed. Let's talk about those 10 years. You said you've been rebuilding your life. Where have you been living? Arizona. Scottsdale. And what's your married name? Raina Holloway. Did you have other children with your new husband? No. We decided to wait. I see. So in these 10 years, rebuilding your life and preparing to be a mother again, how many times did you attempt to contact the children directly? Raina's composure slipped. I told you Logan blocked me. That's not what I asked. How many times did you try to reach out to them? Letters to their school? Birthday cards? Christmas presents? Silence. Ms. Lockwood. I didn't know where they went to school. Cedar Hollow Elementary is the only elementary school in a 30-mile radius. It's a matter of public record. Green's voice remained neutral, clinical. Did you ever contact Child Protective Services? I know. Did you file a missing persons report? No, because I knew they were with Logan. Did you petition this court for custody at any point in the last decade? I didn't have a lawyer, but you have one now. Raina's hands twisted in her lap. My new husband encouraged me to fight for my rights. He helped me see that what Logan did was wrong. I see. When did you marry Mr. Holloway? 3 years ago. And you're telling this court that in those 3 years, it never occurred to you to seek legal counsel until 2 months ago. I was scared. He's controlling. I was afraid of what he might do. Green paused, letting the silence stretch. Ms. Lockwood, did you tell your current husband about your children before you married him? The question landed like a grenade. Raina's face drained of color. That's not relevant. Your Honor, it goes to the witness's credibility and her true motivations in this case. Judge Moreno leaned forward. Answer the question, Ms. Lockwood. I told him eventually. When? A few months ago. The gallery erupted in whispers. Judge Moreno's gavel cracked down. Order. Green didn't smile, but her eyes hardened. So you married a man, lived with him for 3 years, and never mentioned that you had 4 children. Is that correct? It's complicated. I was ashamed. I thought I'd lost them forever. I couldn't. Raina's tears came harder now, but they looked different. Desperate instead of sad. You don't understand. Logan took everything from me. No further questions. Brighton stood for redirect, but the damage was done. He asked a few softball questions about Raina's current stability, her home, her intentions, but the energy in the room had shifted. Even he seemed to sense it. Judge Moreno called a recess. Logan stepped outside into cold October air, leaning against the stone courthouse wall. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage he'd kept bottled for a decade. Patricia Green joined him, lighting a cigarette. You did good in there. Stay calm. She lied about everything. I know, and the judge knows too, but it's just opening statements. The real fight starts now. She took a drag, exhaled smoke into the wind. You have evidence? Real evidence. Logan patted the folder under his arm. Everything. Good. Because Brighton's going to come after you hard when it's your turn on the stand. He'll paint you as the villain. The controlling brother who stole his sister's children out of spite. Let him try. Green studied him. You're really not going to forgive her, are you? No. Good. Don't. Forgiveness is overrated in family court. What we need is cold, documented truth. She stubbed out her cigarette. You ready for this? Logan looked back at the courthouse, It's old timbers and century of history weighing down on everyone who walked through those doors seeking justice. I've been ready for 10 years. When they reconvened, it was Logan's turn to testify. He took the stand, placed his hand on the Bible, and swore his oath. From his seat, he could see Raina staring at him, her face a mask of controlled emotion. Patricia Green approached. "Mr. Carver, please tell the court what happened the night Ms. Lockwood brought her children to your home." Logan recounted it exactly as it happened. The sudden arrival, Raina's manic energy, her vague explanations, the single duffel bag with barely enough clothes for one night, let alone 4 kids. "And what did you expect at that point?" "I thought she'd be back the next morning. Maybe that afternoon." Raina had a history of being flaky, but not, he paused. "Not like this." "What happened when she didn't return?" "I tried calling 17 times in the first week. She never answered. I called her ex-husband. He said he hadn't seen her in months. I called her friends. Same story. It was like she'd vanished." "What did you do?" "I took care of the kids. I enrolled them in school. I made sure they had food, clothes, stability. Things they'd never really had." Brighton objected. "Your Honor, the witness is editorializing about conditions he couldn't possibly know." Sustained. "Stick to facts, Mr. Carver." Logan nodded. "When Raina didn't come back after 6 months, I contacted CPS. I want to do things legally. The caseworker recommended I file for guardianship. So I did. And the court granted that guardianship." "Yes." 8 years ago. Green turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit the guardianship order as Exhibit A." It was entered into the record. Brighton cross-examined, as predicted. He tried to paint Logan as obsessive, controlling, someone who'd seen an opportunity to replace his sister and taken it. But Logan's answers remained steady, factual, emotionless. "Isn't it true, Mr. Carver, that you and your sister had a difficult relationship?" "We had a complicated relationship, like most siblings." "Didn't you resent her for having a life outside Cedar Hollow while you stayed here, caring for your dying father?" Logan's jaw tightened. "No." "Really? You didn't feel abandoned when she moved to Phoenix and left you alone to handle everything?" "My choices were my own." Brighton paced. "Yet when she needed help, when she came to you in crisis, you saw a chance to take something from her. Didn't you?" "No. I saw 4 kids who needed someone to show up for them. And I did. By alienating them from their mother. By being there when she wasn't." Brighton's face reddened. He asked several more questions, each trying to crack Logan's composure, but Logan had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. Every answer was measured, every fact documented. Finally, Brighton sat down. Judge Moreno looked at the clock. "We'll adjourn for today. Tomorrow, I'll hear testimony from the children, if they're willing, and review any additional evidence. Court is adjourned." The gavel fell. Logan left the courthouse and drove home through forest roads turned gold with autumn. The sun hung low, casting everything in amber. He pulled into his driveway and found all 4 kids waiting on the porch. Jonah stood first. "How did it go?" Logan climbed the steps slowly, tiredness pulling at his bones. "It went." "What did she say?" "Lies mostly." Logan unlocked the door, and they followed him inside. "She's claiming I kidnapped you, that she tried to get you back, and I blocked her." Lila's face went pale. "That's not true." "I know. We should be there. We should tell them." "You will. Tomorrow. Judge wants to hear from you." Avery hugged herself, standing near the fireplace. "Do we have to?" "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But if you want to fight this, if you want to stay here, then yes. You need to tell the truth." Ty spoke up, his voice small. "Will they believe us?" Logan knelt down, meeting the 11-year-old's eyes. "I don't know, but they'll hear you, and that matters." That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every scenario. The lockbox sat on his dresser, still closed. He hadn't shown Patricia Green the contents yet. Hadn't told the court what was really inside that manila envelope. Because once he did, there was no going back. Raina wouldn't just lose the custody case. She'd lose everything. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Please don't do this. Can we talk? Just you and me. R." Logan stared at the message. Raina had his number. Of course she did. She'd always known how to find him when she needed something. He deleted the text without responding. The next morning, Logan drove the kids to the courthouse. The gallery was more crowded today. Word had spread through Cedar Hollow, and half the town had shown up to watch. Logan recognized faces from the grocery store, from school functions, from years of living in a place where everyone knew everyone's business. Judge Moreno called Jonah first. The 17-year-old walked to the stand with his shoulders back, head high. He swore his oath and sat down, looking directly at the judge. Brighton approached first, his voice gentle. "Jonah, do you remember your mother?" "Yes." "What do you remember about her?" "Not much. She wasn't around a lot even before she left. She'd disappear for days, come back with excuses, then disappear again. But you were very young. Memories from that age can be unreliable." "I remember enough." Brighton pulled out a photo, Raina and the kids, taken years ago at some birthday party Logan didn't recognize. "Does this help your memory? You look happy here." Jonah barely glanced at it. "One photo doesn't change 10 years. Jonah, isn't it possible that your uncle, who you clearly care about, has influenced your perception of your mother?" "No." "You don't think living with him, hearing only his side of things, might have affected how you remember her?" Jonah leaned forward, and his voice dropped, became harder. "My uncle never once talked bad about her. Not once. Even when we asked why she left, he never said anything. The only thing that affected my memory was her not being there." Brian tried a few more angles, but Jonah was a wall. Solid. Immovable. Finally, he sat down, and Patricia Green stood for her turn. "Jonah, has your mother tried to contact you in the past 10 years?" "No. Not until 2 months ago." The courtroom went silent. 2 months ago? Can you elaborate? Jonah pulled his phone from his pocket. "She sent me a friend request on social media. I accepted because I was curious. She started messaging me." "What did she say?" "At first, it was normal stuff, asking how I was, what I was doing. But then she started asking questions about Logan, about our living situation, about money." "Did she ask anything unusual?" Jonah nodded. "She asked if I'd be willing to testify that Logan kept us hostage, that he wouldn't let us contact her. She said if I told the court that we could all be together again." The gallery erupted. Judge Moreno's gavel cracked like thunder. "Order. I will clear this courtroom if necessary." Brighton shot to his feet. "Your Honor, this is hearsay and obviously fabricated." "It's not fabricated." Jonah held up his phone. "I have screenshots. Every message. Logan told me to save them, just in case." Patricia Green smiled for the first time since the trial started. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit these messages as evidence." Judge Moreno nodded grimly. "Approach." The lawyers and Jonah brought the phone forward. Logan watched as the judge scrolled through the messages, her face growing darker with each swipe. She looked up at Raina, who had gone absolutely white. "Ms. Lockwood, did you send these messages to your son?" Raina stood, trembling. I was just trying to reconnect with him. I didn't mean..." "Did you ask him to lie under oath?" "No, I would never." "The messages are clear, Ms. Lockwood. Sit down." Raina collapsed back in her chair. Beside her, Brighton looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Moreno addressed Jonah. "Thank you for your honesty. You may step down." Jonah left the stand and walked back to Logan. As he passed Raina, he didn't even glance at her. Lila and Avery testified next, separately. Both told the same story. A mother who had been absent even before she left, a decade of silence, and Logan's steady presence. Ty was deemed too young to testify formally, but the judge asked him a few gentle questions in chambers. By the time they finished, it was afternoon. Judge Moreno looked exhausted. "This court will take a brief recess. Mr. Brighton, Ms. Green, chambers, please." They filed into the judge's private office. Logan waited outside. The kids gathered around him. Through the closed door, he could hear raised voices but couldn't make out words. After 20 minutes, the door opened. Patricia Green emerged, her face carefully neutral. "Judge wants to see you." "Just you." Logan entered the small office. Judge Moreno sat behind a desk piled with case files, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Brighton stood near the window, arms crossed. Patricia Green sat in a chair across from the judge. Mr. Carver, sit down. Logan sat. Judge Moreno studied him for a long moment. This case is not what I expected when I opened the file this morning. I'm going to be very direct with you. Do you have anything else you need to submit? Because right now, based on what I've heard, I'm inclined to dismiss Ms. Lockwood's petition entirely. Logan reached into his jacket and pulled out the manila envelope. He placed it on the desk. What's this? Judge Moreno asked. Evidence. Everything that explains why Reyna really left. Brighton moved forward. Your Honor, if this is some attempt to introduce unverified. Mr. Brighton, you've lost the high ground here. I suggest you remain quiet. Judge Moreno opened the envelope and pulled out the contents. She read in silence, her expression shifting from stern to shocked to something close to anger. After 10 minutes, she looked up at Logan. Mr. Carver, do the children know about this? No, Your Honor. Does anyone? Just me. And now you. Judge Moreno set the documents down carefully. She removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. This changes everything. Ms. Green, Mr. Brighton, we're going back into open court. Now, they filed back into the courtroom. Reyna looked up, confused and frightened. The gallery had refilled, every seat taken, people standing along the back wall. Judge Moreno took her seat. I've reviewed additional evidence submitted by the defense. Given the nature of this evidence, I'm going to ask the minor children to wait outside while we proceed. Logan nodded to Jonah, who gathered his siblings and led them out. The doors closed behind them. Judge Moreno turned to Reyna. Ms. Lockwood, I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell the truth before I reveal what's in this envelope. Why did you really leave your children with your brother 10 years ago? Reyna's hands gripped the table in front of her. I told you. I needed time. The truth, Ms. Lockwood. I'm telling the truth. Then you leave me no choice. Judge Moreno picked up the envelope. Mr. Carver has submitted evidence including federal investigation documents, financial records, and a signed confession written by you and dated 10 years ago. According to these documents, you are under federal investigation for fraud. You fled the state to avoid arrest, and you left your children with your brother to avoid implicating them in your crimes. The courtroom exploded. Reyna shot to her feet. That's a lie. He forged those documents. He's trying to destroy me. Sit down, Ms. Lockwood. No, this is insane. Your Honor, you can't believe. The documents are authenticated. They include federal case numbers that I can verify with one phone call. Judge Moreno's voice cut through the chaos like ice. You used your brother's address for your fraudulent activities. When federal agents came knocking, he cooperated with their investigation. And you ran. Reyna's face crumbled. She looked at Logan, eyes wild. You bastard. You were supposed to protect me. I was supposed to protect them, Logan said quietly. And I did. Brighton was frantically whispering to Reyna, but she shoved him away. You don't understand. I had no choice. They were going to arrest me. They were going to take everything. So you took your children's mother instead, Judge Moreno said coldly. You abandoned 4 kids to save yourself. I was going to come back. I just needed time to sort things out. 10 years. You needed 10 years. Reyna collapsed back in her chair, sobbing. Brighton looked at Judge Moreno helplessly. Your Honor, my client clearly needs time to... What your client needs, Mr. Brighton, is a criminal defense attorney. Because I'm forwarding these documents to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Judge Moreno's gavel came down. Ms. Lockwood's petition for custody is denied. All charges against Logan Carver are dismissed. Furthermore, I'm making his guardianship permanent and irrevocable. Ms. Lockwood's parental rights are hereby terminated. The gavel struck again, final and absolute. Reyna's scream echoed through the courthouse. The chaos in the courtroom took 20 minutes to settle. Bailiffs had to physically restrain Reyna as she lunged toward Logan, screaming accusations that dissolved into incoherent sobbing. Brighton tried to restore order, tried to call for an appeal, but Judge Moreno shut him down with a single look that could have frozen summer itself. This court's decision is final, Mr. Brighton. If you wish to file an appeal, that's your right. But I'm putting my findings in writing, and I promise you, no appeals court in this state will overturn what I've seen here today. Security escorted Reyna out through a side door. Her voice echoed down the hallway, crying, pleading, cursing. Logan sat perfectly still, hands folded in his lap, watching it all with the same calm he'd carried into the courtroom that morning. Patricia Green leaned over. "You okay?" "Yeah. That was brutal. It needed to be." She packed her briefcase, snapping the latches with finality. "The federal charges. You know they're going to prosecute her now. Judge Moreno doesn't make idle threats." "I know. You're really not going to stop it? She's still your sister." Logan stood, straightening his jacket. "She stopped being my sister the night she drove away." Green studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Take care of those kids, Mr. Carver. They're lucky to have you." Logan found the kids in the hallway, sitting on a bench under a tall window. Sunlight streamed through, illuminating dust motes that drifted like snow. Jonah stood when he saw Logan, his face a careful mask, trying not to show hope. "Well, it's over. You're staying with me. Permanently." Lila burst into tears. Avery covered her face with her hands. Ty just stared, like he couldn't quite process the words. But Jonah stepped forward and threw his arms around Logan, and for the first time in 10 years, Logan felt something in his chest crack open just slightly. "Thank you," Jonah whispered. "Thank you." Logan's hand came up, resting on the back of Jonah's head. "You don't thank family for showing up." They left through the courthouse's back exit to avoid the crowd and news cameras that had gathered out front. Word had spread fast. Small towns are like that. By the time Logan pulled into his driveway, his phone was flooded with messages. Well-wishers, curiosity seekers, old friends from his paramedic shifts checking in. He ignored all of them. Inside the cabin, the kids scattered to their rooms to decompress. Logan stood in the kitchen, staring at the lake through the window. The water was dark gray under October clouds. A storm was rolling in from the north, and the wind was already picking up, pushing waves against his dock in steady rhythm. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Logan." Raina's voice, raw from crying. Please, you have to stop this." "Stop what?" "The federal thing. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them you were wrong about the documents." "I wasn't wrong. They're going to arrest me. Do you understand? They're going to take everything. My marriage, my life, everything I've built. You build it on lies, Raina. Just like you always do. I'm your sister." "No, you were my sister. Now you're just someone who abandoned 4 kids and came back when it was convenient." "Logan, please." Her voice broke. "I know I screwed up. I know I wasn't there. But I was trying to survive. Can't you understand that? I was terrified. So were they. Every single night for months, they were terrified. Lila had nightmares. Avery couldn't sleep without lights on. Ty stopped talking for 3 months because he thought if he was too much trouble, I'd leave too." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "I didn't know. Because you didn't call. You didn't check. You didn't care enough to even try." Logan's grip tightened on the phone. "You want me to understand survival? I survived raising 4 kids on a paramedic salary. I survived teaching myself how to braid hair and pack lunches and explain why their mother didn't love them enough to stay. That's not fair." "Fair." Logan laughed, sharp and bitter. "You don't get to talk about fair. You left them in my driveway like stray dogs. And now you want mercy because the bill finally came due. I made mistakes." "No, mistakes are what you fix. What you did was a choice. Every day, for 10 years, you chose not to come back. You chose to build a new life and pretend they never existed. And now that it's convenient, now that your new husband found out the truth, suddenly you remember you're a mother? That's not. I'm done, Raina. I'm done protecting you. I'm done cleaning up your messes. You're on your own." He hung up. His hands were shaking, not from anger anymore, but from something like grief. For the sister he'd once known, the one who used to climb trees with him and make terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings. That person was gone, had been gone for a long time, and Logan was finally letting himself acknowledge it. Thunder rumbled across the lake. Rain started to fall, soft at first, then harder, drumming against the roof like 1,000 impatient fingers. The next few days passed in a strange calm. Logan went back to work, picking up overnight shifts at the hospital. The kids returned to school, where apparently the entire student body had heard about the trial. Jonah said people whispered in the hallways, but his friends circled around him like a protective barrier. On Wednesday, 2 federal agents came to Logan's door. They were polite, professional. They asked about the evidence, verified the timeline, and confirmed what Judge Moreno had already forwarded to their office. "We've had an open warrant for Raina Lockwood for 7 years," the lead agent said, a woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "She disappeared, changed her name, thought she could outrun it. Thanks to you, we finally have her location. When will you arrest her?" "Already done. She was taken into custody this morning." Logan nodded slowly. "Good." The agent studied him. "You don't seem surprised. I've been waiting 10 years for consequences to catch up with her. I stopped being surprised a long time ago." That Friday afternoon, Logan was out on his dock, teaching Ty how to cast a fishing line, when he saw a car pull into his driveway. Not Raina's, not a police car, just a modest sedan with an older woman behind the wheel. "I've been waiting 10 years for consequences to catch up with her. I stopped being surprised a long time ago." That Friday afternoon, Logan was out on his dock, teaching Ty how to cast a fishing line, when he saw a car pull into his driveway. Not Raina's, not a police car, just a modest sedan with an older woman behind the wheel. She got out slowly, looking around with the careful assessment of someone entering unfamiliar territory. Logan recognized her immediately, Raina's ex-husband's mother, the kid's other grandmother. Helen. He met her maybe twice, years ago. "Logan Carver?" she called out. "That's me." She approached the dock, stepping carefully on the weathered boards. Up close, Logan could see the resemblance. Jonah had her eyes, Lila her jawline. "I heard about the trial," Helen said. "Took me a few days to work up the courage to come out here." "Why?" "Because I owe you an apology." She looked out at the lake, at Ty with his fishing rod, at the cabin behind them. "I knew. When Raina left the kids with you, I knew something was wrong. My son called me, said he couldn't reach her, that you had the kids. I should have checked on them, should have offered to help. But I was angry at how my son was treated in the divorce, and I let that anger make me a coward." Logan didn't respond immediately. He reeled in his own line, cast it out again. "They needed family. You could have been that. I know, and I'm sorry. I can't make up for lost time, but..." She pulled an envelope from her purse. Not sealed like Logan's had been, just a regular white envelope with a checkbook inside. "I want help now. With college funds, whatever they need. I know it doesn't fix anything, but..." "They don't need money," Logan interrupted. "They need people who show up. Can you do that?" Helen met his eyes. "Yes, I can do that." "Then keep your money and come to dinner on Sunday. Meet them properly. Be their grandmother." She blinked back tears. "I like that very much." Sunday dinner was awkward at first. Helen brought a casserole that was too salty and a store-bought pie that was too sweet, but the kids warmed to her when she started telling stories about their father as a child, back before he became the absent figure they barely remembered. By the end of the night, Lila was showing Helen her drawings, and Ty climbed into her lap while they watched TV. Logan cleaned up in the kitchen, watching through the doorway. Jonah appeared beside him, drying dishes. "You think she'll stick around?" the boy asked quietly. "I don't know, but we'll see. That's all we can do, right? See who shows up." Logan glanced at his nephew. "No, his son. That's what the papers said now. His son. That's all we can do." October bled into November. The trees went bare. The lake turned steel gray and choppy. Logan celebrated his 33rd birthday quietly. No party, just a cake Lila baked that collapsed in the middle, but tasted like love anyway. Raina called from jail twice. Logan didn't answer. She sent letters. He burned them without opening them. Some people thought he was cruel. He heard the whispers at the grocery store, at church functions he rarely attended. She's still his sister. She made mistakes, but everyone deserves forgiveness. But forgiveness wasn't about deserving. It was about trust. And trust, once shattered completely, didn't regrow. Not for Logan. Maybe that made him hard. Maybe that made him unforgiving. He could live with that. On Thanksgiving, Helen came for dinner. So did a few of Logan's co-workers from hospital, people who'd become friends over the years. The cabin was loud, warm, full of voices and laughter that bounced off the pine walls and filled every corner with life. Logan stood at the head of the table, carving the turkey, and felt something he hadn't felt in 10 years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, Peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Jonah raised his glass of sparkling cider. I want to make a toast. Everyone quieted. The 17-year-old stood, looking around the table at faces lit by candlelight. 10 years ago, my life was chaos. I didn't know where I'd sleep or if anyone would remember to feed me. Then someone showed up. Someone who didn't have to, who had every reason to say no, but said yes anyway. Someone who taught me that family isn't just blood, it's who stays when everyone else leaves. He looked directly at Logan. So here's to the best dad anyone could ask for. Thank you for choosing us. Logan's throat tightened. Around the table, faces blurred slightly in the candlelight. But he raised his glass. To family. To family. Everyone echoed. December came with the first snow. Logan took the kids sledding on the hill behind the cabin, built snowmen that Ty knocked down immediately, taught Avery how to make snow angels without getting snowed down her coat. 2 days before Christmas, a letter arrived. Official stationery. Federal court seal. Logan opened it on the porch, breath misting in cold air. Raina Holloway née Lockwood has pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges. Sentencing scheduled for February. Expected sentence, 5 to 7 years. Logan folded the letter, slipped it back into the envelope. He should have felt something, satisfaction, vindication, maybe even sadness. But all he felt was tired. Tired of a decade-long war that was finally ending. He went inside. The cabin smelled like cinnamon and pine from the tree Lila had insisted they decorate. Presents were piled underneath, modest, but there. In the living room, the kids were watching a movie, tangled together on the couch in a heap of blankets and contentment. Logan sat in his armchair, coffee warming his hands, and just watched them. His family. Not perfect, not traditional, but his. Jonah looked over. You good? Yeah, I'm good. That night, after the kids were asleep, Logan went down to the dock. The lake was frozen at the edges, ice creeping out from the shore like fingers. Stars blazed overhead, sharp and cold. He pulled the lockbox from his coat pocket, the same one that had held the envelope for 10 years. It was empty now. Everything inside had been used, spent, deployed in the war to protect what mattered. Logan stood there for a long moment, then tossed the box into the lake. It hit the ice, cracked through, and sank into black water. Gone. Behind him, the cabin glowed warm against the winter darkness. Inside, for kids slept safe, knowing someone would be there in the morning. Knowing someone would always be there. Logan turned and walked back up the dock, each footstep solid on frozen boards. The war was over. He had won. Not because he forgave. Not because he forgot. But because he never stopped showing up.